I'm going to go very quickly and take you through an example of a disinformation network that's actually taken us down. And then it'll go over to Katie, and she'll tell you how she'll prevent these things from happening, right? And then let's see, we'll take your questions, okay? So for me, Rappler is a startup in the Philippines, and I'm going to scare myself with the first slide. This is from the 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010, right? Where it's all technology driven. And I've been a journalist a long time, more than 30 years, mostly television. But something happened in 2016. I always say that, the Philippines is patient zero in the fight for fake news. This is what happened to me early this year, in January 15th. Our articles of incorporation were revoked. I'm fighting it. We're going to take it all the way to the Supreme Court if we need to. And then in addition to that, because we stood up, I had more cases thrown at me, 6. 8 government agencies attacked. And then we had this. I had a tax evasion case. I pay my taxes. Overpay, actually. 6 months earlier, the government said, we're one of the top taxpayers, but then we're summoned for this. And then, of course, I couldn't shut my mouth. This is clear intimidation and harassment. And then it came down to this. It says, The Guardian said, the woman taken on Duterte in a press freedom fight in the Philippines. I don't want to take on Duterte. I just want to be a journalist. And the big question, what happens when the government uses Facebook as a weapon? Poor Katie, she's been with me for 2 days. So, why the Philippines? January 2017, look all the way over here. The Philippines is #1 in the amount of time spent on the internet. January 2018, #1 in terms of the amount of time spent on social media. So we're a petri dish. Again, I go back. So there are 2 cases of impunity that we've really been fighting. You've heard, I'm sure, about the drug war in the Philippines. This graphic is from the Philippine National Police's Facebook page. I think they made a mistake, but they actually admitted the number of people they killed. Whoops. Sorry. Fighting illegal drugs, #real numbers. So Rappler always went to the death toll. There was a period of time in July of 2016 that our reporters would come home and it would be a minimum of 8 bodies a night they would see. Well, in December, the government admitted they killed nearly 4,000 people. Just for comparison, in 9 years of martial law, 3,200 people had been killed. So about 4,000 that the government admitted were killed in police operations. And then look below, 16,355. That's how many people were killed under this category that was created called deaths under investigation. How many people? That's 20,000 people killed. 20,000 people killed in a year and 4 months. What's fact? We don't know. That is the first casualty in our war for truth, and we keep asking. Okay. Here's the information warfare. The difference between the real world and the virtual world. Up top is the real world. That's the Pew Global Attitude Survey, January this year. 86% of Filipinos said that they believe traditional media is fair and accurate, 86%. Then you look at it on social media. Below is Eon, that's the partner of Edelman Trust Survey. They came out with this in January, and you can look at media. 83% had negative, 86% in the real world, 83% against in the virtual world. There's no starker way of looking at the difference, right? Unlike Western media, Philippine media has always had high trust because our institutions are weak. And so this high level of trust of 86% continues the pattern, but social media has come up with really turning that upside down. I always say I feel like Alice in Wonderland and the Mad Hatter's in charge. Here's the stats. So we started to put a database together of Facebook. 97% of Filipinos on the internet are on Facebook. Look at these are all the attack words used against media from January 2015 all the way to the campaign period. And you can kind of see when the campaign period began. That's when the red line started. And then after, the weaponization of social media happened a month after the president won, when the campaign machinery was weaponized. And I'll just focus you on two words here. Bayaran means corrupt. So you can see, if you can look at this one, right? Bayaran, the third or fourth one. And it shows you, you know exactly when the campaign began. It's kind of spotted. There's a grain of truth because people were talking about it beforehand, but it was solidified. And then right below that, this is the one I always like, bias. And I always add the ED, because it was a systematic attack claiming journalists are both corrupt and biased. And you can see how much, as the red solidified, public perception changed, right? So these are the timeline of attacks. These are not impressions, they're real posts, okay? Now let's go to how we did it, right? This is the database. On the left side are the URLs of websites that are spreading, in quotes, fake news. They're part of the disinformation network that we started to track. And then the center is actually, those are the Facebook pages that are spreading that particular URL. And then you can see some of the stats, but look at the average reposting times, right? We came under attack a lot in October of 2016 because that was after we did our series on the propaganda war. And look down at Sally Matay, this account that's spreading that. Average reposting was 17.8 times. And then you can see this was a tool we built for our social media team so they can figure out who's real, who's not, so they can respond to the real people. And then look at this. This is cut and paste, regardless of what it is, right? And there, each square is a post inside a campaign page that is now being used to spread this information of then now President Duterte and Bongbong Marcos, who ran for vice president. He's the son of Ferdinand Marcos, who declared martial law in 1973. That is not authentic, right? So what do? Well, once you have that database, you can pull down networks. Because I don't think that you can do content. It's so contentious to do content, right? What we did is we looked at who was attacking. And then we pulled down, this one is an attack on Vice President Leni Robredo, a woman, our vice president. It happened last year, January last year. When you pull it down, you can map the network. Here's the network that attacked Leni Robredo. It's the same network that attacks me. And you can see how organized it is. The content creators in this network are broken down by demographic. The bottom right here is the pseudo-intellectual. The one up on top, thinking Pinoy, is the middle class. And then Mocha Uson is the mass-based account. And then you can see that the way it spreads out goes from them, right? Now, here's the next thing, the ecosystem. That's the foundation of our information ecosystem, social media and the propaganda machine. It jumps into traditional media because one of the pro-Duterte bloggers writes for this newspaper, the Manila Times, whose chairman emeritus is in charge of Duterte's international public relations. And then it connects with state media. State media, the head of the agency told Facebook that they were sending their folks to China and Russia for training. I said, that's not a good thing, right? He said, it's free, Maria. Anyway, so from there, let's close the loop. Let's take the mass-based account and make her in charge of social media at the palace. Former singer-dancer who campaigned for Duterte is now running social media for our government. That's one ecosystem. So let me show you what she's done, right? Before she was appointed, this is one attack on traditional media, the word prostitute. And it's a familiar one because not only is it echoed in South Africa, in India, it's actually really used to tear down journalists because you're corrupt and you're a prostitute, right? Look at who trended it. One account here at this particular point in time, one account posted 43 times. You can see the actors, right? Okay, so let me show you an example of that. This is what we're all dealing with. And I'm so happy that the woman who coined patriotic trolling is here, Camille Francois. Working with her was really amazing because She gave a name to this thing that we were all going through, patriotic trolling, state-sponsored online hate and harassment campaigns that's meant to silence and to intimidate. You just create a spiral of silence. So you own the narrative. You literally occupy the public space. You flood the market with false news, with disinformation. Women are a favorite, easy target. There are 3 steps in the Philippines that we've documented. You attack the credibility, allege corruption, repeat exponentially. Then, step 2, use sexual violence, inflame the biases, fuel misogyny, degrade that person as a sexual object. And finally, step 3, if you want to arrest them, trend this a few weeks before you mean to arrest them. Laila de Lima was our former commissioner on human rights, former justice secretary. She is in prison. She's gone through all of this. Her dignity's essentially been stripped, and she's been in prison for 16 months now, more than 16 months, without a trial. So they did try to trend hashtag arrest Maria Ressa, but it was a year ago, and I'm still here. So, and it started here. We've just ran the transcript of Trump's call, his phone call with Duterte, right? And based on that, the one who's the middle-class account posted this. Rappler just made the Philippines a legitimate target of North Korean nuclear missiles. When you read it in Berlin, it looks so funny, right? But people believed it. And from there, so this is the first time I saw hashtag arrest Maria Ressa, it jumped to a Twitter account that was used during the campaign. Ipatawag na yan sa Senado, call her to the Senate, hashtag arrest Maria Ressa. And then it jumped to a real person. I can smell the arrest and possible closure of Rappler.com. This was a year ago, before they tried to shut us down. And then, here we go with the sexual. Maybe Maria Ressa's dream is to become the ultimate porn star in a gangbang scene. She's so desperate to get laid. Not true. And then, here we go with this last one. Me to the RP government, make sure Maria Ressa gets publicly raped to death when martial law expands to Luzon. It would bring joy to my heart. The only defense we have is to shine the light. When I posted this, within 12 hours, the 2 boys, because they're boys, they were both seniors in college, their schools notified me, right? What's happening to our next generation? What are the values that we're putting in? I'm just going to put this out there because on 2 fronts, so I'm speaking as a journalist, you're going to hear from the platform. The platforms for journalists who are here, we know that our business model is essentially dead, right? And now with the government attacking us, we've essentially said, we're going to stand up to it. But we're standing tall, and we're going to continue to do that. And the hashtag we're using, of course you gotta have a hashtag, right? Hashtag hold the line. We're gonna hold the line.
Have you ever been harassed?
Sorry, stop. I'm gonna leave you with this. 1 minute, 30 seconds. I spoke to you, thank you for giving me the chance and listening to our story. But Filipino journalists are really coming together in a whole different way, and we can win this. So this is 1 minute, 30 seconds. Other friends of mine, other journalists who are trying to hold the line.
Have you ever been harassed because of your work?
Yes.
Have you been threatened online?
Ay, oo.
Have you been called biased?
Yes.
Have you been called stupid?
Yes, plenty times. By idiots.
Have you been called disrespectful?
Yes.
Have you been accused of corruption?
Yes.
Have you been called ugly as a response to any story?
Yes.
Have you been called fake news?
Oh yeah, they always say I'm fake news. Anything that's critical is fake, right?
Have you been accused of being an imperialist spy?
Yes.
Have you been accused of being a communist operative?
Yes.
Have you been accused of working for the CIA?
Yes.
Have you been sexually harassed as a journalist?
Yes.
Has your family been threatened, harassed, or alluded to?
Yes, it has. Specifically my daughter. When she died, there were a lot of people who made fun of that.
Have you been threatened with rape?
Yes.
Yes.
No, not me, but my family.
Have you been threatened with violence?
Yes.
Have you been threatened with death?
Yes.
Have you been told how you're going to be killed?
Yes.
Has the violence been described to you?
Yeah, blow my head off or bury me alive.
What will stop you from reporting?
Nothing.
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 Death.
Did you have to kill me?
Thank you.